When it comes to money mastery and accessing funds and business funding, in your experience, how important is that?
It's beyond important, because now you're able to gain access to an acquisition that something like what Jim has that can provide instant growth for you guys. And now you're able to gain that capital that you can kind of deploy and gain access to those resources. So it's beyond important. And it's beyond important that you guys can grow at this speed or rate that he's referring to.
How long have you been doing funding and business? And
5 years. 5 years, and it has definitely allowed us to maintain, because like you said, most of the time, 2 to 3 years, most businesses, you don't even hear from them anymore. So, having access to those resources has been able to carry us along the way, and now we're here year 5.
What would you say is the biggest reason for people to not be able to get resources?
If you don't have the liquid capital, the only thing you have to rely on is your personal credit. But starting out having a new branded entity, if you don't have the cash flow, if you don't have the business credit, the only thing that you have to rely on is your personal credit. And personal credit is definitely a major resource to start, actually get you that seed funding that you need to grow your business. So coming in, having at least a 700 credit score, that's a major, resource for you to be able to gain that initial capital for you guys to just get started.
When you talk about personal credit, what do you find are the reasons that people could look for, and what they can do with their own personal stuff so that they can at least be good stewards over what they already have, their profiles?
Most importantly, having the profile in order. There's other factors in the profile that can kind of hinder the process or just really slow the process down. Like you said, some students, they'll come in, they'll have the credit score, but we may see that the utilization is pretty high. See that, we don't want to go in and asking banks for money and we're already over the 30% threshold, because now they're looking at us like, hey, why do you need money? Credit is a resource for, emergency purposes only, really. So if you're over 30%, we're not willing to give you as much money as we could give you, or we could not give you any money at all. Utilization mainly on your credit card, which is your revolving accounts, is what is considered your revolving account, your credit cards. It shows the utilization, and your 30% mark is anything over 30% of your available limit. So just say if you have $1,000, you can't report over, what is it, 300 bucks?
If they've got a high utilization, how they can make sure when the banks see their utilization, it's 30% or less.
If you got the capital on hand to pay it off and, reduce the utilization. The other hand is we have a special way of actually getting that utilization down. So just say if you have another card that has, the statement has posted already, and you have more resources available on that card that you can apply to the one that's over the 30% threshold, that's another way that we can kind of leverage that capital. We call it robbing Peter to pay Paul, just to get that utilization down. So once we get it under 30%, they look at us as more of a bankable person. We can now go out and get the high level limits of funding.
When it comes to entities, what do you recommend when someone's looking to get an entity so that they can have access to business funding? What do you recommend?
I always recommend the C Corp. It's just a better foundation when it comes to what banks see as opposed to an LLC. If I'm coming in and I see that you have a C corporation, that means you have more room for growth as opposed to an LLC. So typically banks are going to be a little bit more, willing to lend more when it comes to a C Corp as opposed to an LLC. But, if you already have the LLC, that's fine as well. We're still able to take you out and get pretty much the same amount of funding as well. But what I do know, having a C Corp, and we're only using this as a special purpose entity. We're not using a C Corp to start out doing business under. We're only getting the C Corp to get you funding. We don't want to get double taxed. C Corps, that's double taxation. So we're only getting this as a special purpose, and that's to only get funding.
Someone comes in with a 720 score. How long would it take them to be able to get access to $25,000 in your experience?
Typically, it just depends because 720 can be a thin 720 as well. So if you're coming in that 720 is strong, we can take you out and get 25,000 in a day or so.
I'm in the process of increasing my credit. Now my wife's credit is better than mine, but I'm the breadwinner. How can we utilize, or is it even possible to utilize her good credit with me being the breadwinner in order to get more funding?
Absolutely. That's definitely beyond possible. I would definitely advise that, you know, you use her as a funding leverage where you guys can gain access to the capital. So most definitely, it won't be an issue. A lot of times banks look for stated income. So it's based off of what, you know, you created an entity. Now it's all about stated income or what we could potentially make by gaining access to capital and to fund our business. So
once you get a client ready to receive funding, is it a certain amount that you're going for? Do you go for as much as you can? Do you wait X amount of days to go for a second round of funding? I was just curious.
So it just depends on how strong your personal credit score is. To say, we always advise you to come in with at least, they say 680, but I prefer more at the 700 level. I can take you to multiple banks. We'll get the funding that you need. So just say you have a 700 credit score, you're definitely going to have access to, you know, at least 25,000 to get started in the program. But if you need more, we just have to, you know, find other ways to source it.
Or without me even 10xing my money, but I got a 10x result. Cesare, I want to say thank you. You guys give it up for Cesare for sharing his knowledge and information with us.